Good morning, my name is MJones. My video is on file and folder permissions. This is for NOS 130. And we'll start off with a PowerPoint presentation that gives you a basic overview of file and folder permissions and why we have them and what they are. And then we'll go into a couple hands-on exercises to show you what I've learned about file and folder permissions. So why do we have file and folder permissions? File and folder permissions are used to control the access that a user, group, or application has to folders and files. It controls access to files and folders on a computer or network. It also enhances the security. Why is this important? Is because we as IT professionals, a major part of our job is going to be access control to network information that's on the network infrastructure of whatever company or organization that we work at. Everything's going to be stored in this infrastructure, from reports for managers to things that first level employees have. But access control will prevent an employee from seeing something that's confidential, let's say that the corporate lawyer has stored on the network. Ownership. The owner of a file or folder is the user who has complete and full control over that file or folder. This is often, but not always, the creator of the file or folder, and is governed by the location of where the file or folder is first created. Typically, the creator of the file or folder is by default initially designated as the owner. Ownership of a file or folder may be taken by an administrator or any user with take ownership permission. So knowing that, anytime that you are setting access controls and permissions, it's suggested that you do that as an administrator or in administrator mode. That way you have full control over all the files and folders that's on that system or network. Another important piece is file and folder permission inheritance. Another part of understanding file and folder permissions involves the concept of inheritance. When a file or subfolder is created in an existing folder, referred to as the parent folder, it inherits by default all of the permissions on a parent, by default all the permissions of the parent folder. Similarly, when the permissions on a parent folder are changed, those changes are automatically inherited by all child files and folders contained within the parent folder. So basically, if you change permissions in a folder, those permissions will be inherited by every file and folder that's contained within that folder. So you need to pay special attention to that when you're setting access controls and permissions. The basic file and folder permissions are full control, which gives you permission to read, write, change, and delete files and subfolders. Just as the name says, it gives you full control over the file. Modify, permission to read and write to files in the folder and to delete current folder. Read and execute, permission to list files and folders and to execute files. List folder contents, permission to obtain listing of files and folders and to execute files. Write, permission to create new files and folders within selected folder. And last, read, permission to list files and folders, which is the most basic permission you can give. Alright, that's the end of the PowerPoint presentation. And what we'll do now is we'll go through a couple examples. So the first thing a person should do is there's a couple of configuration changes we should make. What we need to do is click on Start, well, right click on Start, open Windows Explorer, click on Organize, select Folder and Search Options, click View, and from here we want to make sure that we're seeing all the system files and all the hidden files that's on the system or network. And how we'll do this is right here. We'll change this to Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. We'll uncheck Hide Extensions and Known File Types, and we'll uncheck Hide Protected Operating System Files. Click Apply, click OK. Now all those changes should take effect, so we'll go back and check and make sure that those changes took hold. And you can see it's go show hidden files, folders, and drives, and it's also go display the extensions and known file types, and it's also go display operating system files. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and go to our computer management and set up some users and groups. And to do that, we'll go to Control Panel. Then from here we'll go to Admin Tools. Then we'll click Computer Management. Alright, here's where we'll set up users and groups. So we'll click on Local Users and Groups. And what we'll do is we'll first create a couple of new groups. So we'll double click that. We'll right click and select New Group. And this group name for our example is going to be Employees. Alright, we'll create that. Let's go ahead and create another group, and we'll call this group Managers. And here you can see here's our new groups that we created. Alright, now that we've created the groups, let's go ahead and create some users to put in these groups. So we'll select, let's see, how we did that is we just click anywhere in this window and right click and click New User, and our first user is going to be Employee 1. Employee 2. Manager 1. And Manager 2. So here you can see, here's the new users we created. Now what we can do is we can go back to our groups and we'll set up, we'll put users in each of our groups. So we're going to add Employee 1 to our employee group. We'll add Employee 2. And let's add myself also. We'll add the manager to this group as well, so he can monitor what the employees are doing. and we'll also add the administrator to this group. So we'll go back and double check, and you can see here's everybody that we added to that group. Now we'll go to our managers group, and we'll add to this group our managers and our administrator. Alright, and you can see under this group right here, we've added the administrator of the networker system, manager 1 and manager 2. Click apply. We'll go back and we'll just make sure that the changes took hold, and they're in there. Alright, so we've set up the users on the system. Now let's go ahead and start messing with a few permissions and access controls. So let's start off by creating a folder. In this folder here, we'll name it XYZ. And inside of XYZ, let's create a folder. We'll name this folder Employees. We'll create another folder. We'll name this Managers. So in our employee folder, let's create a new folder named Employee 1. And we'll create a folder named Employee 2. Now let's go to our manager folder, and we'll create a folder named, can you guess, Manager 1. And we'll also create a folder named Manager 2. Alright. So we have all of our folders created for this scenario. So what we'll do is let's go to our properties and let's look at who has access to this XYZ folder. And you can see right now the administrators, home users, and myself, Mike Jones, has access to this folder, but none of our employees or managers has access to this folder. And you can see Mike Jones is the owner of this folder because I was the one that created it. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll add some people to this folder that will have access. So XYZ Incorporated, they'll need all their employees to have access to this folder. And what kind of access are we going to give them? Well, let's give them all full control for right now. Let's also add our managers. And we'll also give them full control. Alright, so now you can see that on this folder right here, XYZ, we have Employee 1, Employee 2, manager 1 and manager 2, as well as the administrator and myself, who's the file creator, Mike Jones. So to look at inheritance, let's go and look in this folder, and we'll see that the employees, they have access to the manager's folders. So you can see that right here. The employees has access to this manager folder, and we wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want the employees to be looking inside the manager's folders at what the managers are seeing. So we can change that, and what we'll do is we'll select employee 1, and let's just deny So now, if we go back and look, you'll see that employee 1 and employee 2 is denied any kind of access to this folder. Well, we have manager 1 and manager 2 subfolders in this manager folder. Well, we wouldn't want manager 2 to eavesdrop and see what manager 1 is saving in his folder. So we could go back and prevent him from doing that. So here we're on the manager 1 folder, and we'll look for manager 2. And manager 2 will deny him access to that folder. And we'll do the same thing with manager 2's folder. We'll go down to manager 1, and we'll deny access for him to manager 2's folder. And of course, because we prevented access on the manager folder, neither employee 1 or employee 2 will have access to these folders, as you can see right there. So now we have these folders set up for access as far as employee 1, employee 2, manager 1, and manager 2. And just remember the inheritance, that if you grant access to a parent folder, that access will be inherited to all child folders within that parent folder. So if you want to customize any type of access controls beyond that, you need to go down to those specific folders or child directories and set those access restrictions that are appropriate. So here, let's go to the employees and set up some access to these. So right now you can see that employee 1, employee 2, manager 1, and manager 2 all have access, full control access to this folder. And inside this folder we have employee 1 and employee 2 subfolders. Well, we don't want employee 2 to see what employee 1 has in their folder and vice versa. However, we do want managers to have full control over these folders. And because they inherit it from XYZ, the managers do have full control. We don't have to make any changes there. But we do want to prevent employee 2 from having access to employee 1's folder. So here you can see the managers have full access, and as of right now employee 2 does too. So we'll go ahead and deny this access. And we'll do the same thing for employee 1 on employee 2's folder. So you can see these users all have access to this folder, and what we'll do is we'll deny any type of access from employee 1 to employee 2's folder. So to recap, all employees and managers now have access to this employees folder. The employee 1 folder is only accessed by the managers, manager 1 and manager 2, and employee 1. Employee 2 has restricted access to that folder. On the employee 2 folder, you can see that manager 1, manager 2 all have access. Employee 2 has access, but employee 1 is denied any type of access to that folder. On the managers folder, we can see that although employee 1 and employee 2 can see the folder, they're denied any type of access to it. Manager 1 and manager 2 both have full control over that folder. When we go down to the subfolders, manager 1's folder, we can see that manager 2 has no access to that folder. Manager 1 has full control. On the manager 2 folder, we can see that manager 1 has no control and manager 2 has full control over that folder. Another thing I want to try is, instead of adding individual names to this folder right here for permissions to access it, so you can see here that we have these individual names. Let's edit that and let's try to add a group. And what was the group we set up? I think it was employees. Yep, employees. So as you remember, we'll go back and look. So our group has our employee 1 and our employee 2, our manager 1 and our manager 2. And we also set up a group for managers. So another way we could set up access control is through groups. Instead of having to do each individual employee, you could set the employees in groups. If we wanted to grant access to this XYZ folder, we could have just selected employees. That would have gave the same type of access to employee 1, employee 2, manager 1, and manager 2. In the subfolder, if we just wanted managers to see this folder right here, we could have set up the manager group. And that right there concludes the video for what I've learned about files and folders, permissions. Thank you.